Hey guys, it's Neil again from Heart of Texas Armory, and today I want to bring you guys a video review of this Vostok watch you see in front of you, which I feel is probably the most beautiful of all the Vostok watches. So this is a 710 Sailboat. So join me today as we take a look at this really cool and beautiful timepiece from Vostok. So we'll quickly go over some of the highlights of the specs of this 710, and I do have a full detailed review of a 710 that I did about a year or so back. That one's of the Vostok 710 Scuba Dude. But quickly here, talking about some of the highlights, we do have a case diameter of 41 millimeters. We have a lug width of 22 millimeters, a lug to lug of 45, and a case thickness of 14.5 millimeters. So fairly thick, and that does include the domed acrylic crystal you see there. Now the weight here of this particular timepiece on this steel bracelet is 112 grams, so not too heavy. And of course, being an Amphibia, we do have a water resistance rating of 200 meters, which is nice. So this is a full dive watch. And now we'll talk about the star of the show here, this beautiful Sailboat dial. And this dial here is just really pretty in my opinion. Very classy, very elegant, and it's one that I've wanted to pick up for quite some time now. So I'm really excited to add this to my collection here recently. And it even looks better in person than it did in pictures or online. Just a beautiful, beautiful design. I like the white dial. That just adds to the classiness of it. The blue color scheme here with the blue hour markings, the blue sailboat, of course. All that just looks really good with that white. We do have the really cool Cyrillic Amphibia text underneath that sailboat, which is done in a very nice way. Of course, you have the date window here on at 3 o'clock. And then you have a really nice polish here on the case here and also the bezel. And normally I prefer my dive watches and tool watches to be brushed, but on this particular timepiece, being a little more classy, I think I'm going to leave it in the polish. This is going to be kind of like my fancier dive watch, if there's such a thing. But I do like that polish. They did a really good job on this polish too. Almost a mirror-like finish here. Really cool looking. So I believe I'm going to leave this in the polish, but you know, if enough of you guys comment down below and convince me to maybe brush this, you know, I might do that too. But for now, I'm going to leave it polished. The bezel action is typical Vostok Amphibia. You know, you've got the bi-directional bezel here. This one here is actually tensioned just about perfectly. So it's not going to move on its own. You're not going to bump it and move it, but so it's tight enough to stay in place, but it's loose enough where you can still move it easily. So very well done. I'm not going to have to adjust that at all. It's perfectly tensioned. I do have it here on the original Vostok bracelet here, the steel bracelet. And it's not the best in the world, but it gets the job done. I'll probably leave that bracelet on this timepiece unless I find a good third-party or aftermarket bracelet that would fit this watch. But for now, I'm going to keep it on this. It does pull your hairs a little bit, but it's not too bad. The main thing is it's just sharp around the edges and corners. And that's how all the Vostok bracelets are. They're just not very high quality. But like I mentioned, they do get the job done, and I'll probably end up keeping it on this. I think, overall, it just matches the watch nicely with that polish on the bracelet that matches the polish on the case. So just a really pretty design here. This is probably my favorite of all the Vostok designs out there, and there are a ton of those, ton of varieties. There's a lot of other cool ones as well. But this Sailboat model, to me, has always been just super cool and really pretty. So really pumped to have this in my collection. So to wrap this video review up, we'll talk about a few positives and a few negatives here. So with the positives, the dial is simply spectacular. That's definitely going to be a positive. Just a beautiful design. I do like the capabilities of this watch too. This is just a simple, a reliable, a rugged timepiece here, but it looks good too. So of course you could take this scuba diving, you could take it snorkeling, swimming, all that. It's pretty much a do-it-all timepiece, a great tool watch. The build quality is not bad too. I really like the 710 case style. It just feels solid in hand. It's a little bigger than some of the other Vostok cases, and I like that. So the 710 case style is definitely a positive. The timekeeping is also not bad on this timepiece. Now, that can vary a lot coming out of the factory at Vostok, but this one here, I'm getting plus 12 seconds a day, which is perfectly fine for me. You can regulate watches, particularly Vostoks are pretty simple. I do have videos on how to do that. So if you do get one that's, say, running plus 30 seconds, plus 40 seconds, or even worse than that, you can regulate them down to be more accurate. But this one here, right out of the factory, perfectly fine for me, plus 12 seconds. I'm very happy. Now the negatives, you know, with all the Vostoks, you're going to have just kind of rough, they're just rough around the edges. So you'll have a lot of sharp points and, you know, stuff that should have been contoured or brushed even or softened over. They're just going to be real sharp on these. So going into that, I already knew that with all Vostoks, but just keep that in mind with Vostok's watches. They're going to be just a little rough around the edges, and that's to be expected. The other negative I'll mention is just the feel of the bracelet here. Most of you guys know this. The Vostok bracelets are kind of crappy. They do work, and you know, you can certainly use them on your watches, but they're just not very comfortable to wear, and that's definitely the case here with this particular bracelet. Looks fine, functions just fine. It's just not very comfortable. So that's really about it with the negatives. You know, overall, I love Vostok watches. I love their simplicity, the ruggedness. I love the huge varieties of styles and case styles, dials. All that stuff is just super cool to me. So overall, you know, this is a great timepiece. The loom is also not bad on this too. You should be seeing that loom shop pop up right now. It seems to me that Vostok has stepped up their loom game just a little bit here recently. This one here, it takes a great initial charge and it lasts throughout the night. So I can't really fault it too much with that. I think the loom is definitely better than it used to be, say 5, 6, 7 years ago. But these 710s are just a great watch style. The Sailboat dial here is just simply beautiful. So definitely one of my favorite Vostok watches that I have in my collection. Now, if you have any questions or comments on this watch, feel free to leave them down below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Y'all guys take care. I'll catch you on the next one.